in television. Ours it is.
Now the headlines. INEC resumes the collation of the Adamawa State supplementary governorship election. Clashes continue in Sudan, less than an hour to an agreed 24-hour ceasefire. Syria President Bashar al-Assad meets Saudi Arabia Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. We begin in Adamawa, where there is heavy security presence at the State Collation Center in Yola, as officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) reconvened and resumed collation of results. The State INEC Administrative Secretary Adamu Gunjugu, who has been mandated to take place of the erring resident electoral commissioner Hudu Yunusa Ari, is at the collation center. INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, is also at the center, while the State Returning Officer Mohammed Mele is also present. INEC had on Sunday suspended collation for the Saturday supplementary governorship election after Mr. Ari announced Aisha Binani Dahiru of the All Progressives Congress (APC) as winner over the incumbent governor Amadou Fintiri of the People's Democratic Party (PDP). Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police IGP Usman Baba has ordered the Commissioner of Police on election duty in Adamawa State, Muhammad Bade, to withdraw from the state with immediate effect. The IGP also ordered the Commissioner of Police in charge of Gombe State, CP Atim Ekwa, to immediately proceed to Adamawa State for election security of the yet-to-be-concluded supplementary governorship poll. The Force Public Relations Officer Muyiwa Adejobi disclosed these while addressing pressmen today in Abuja, adding that the police boss is committed to a free and fair process. Outside Nigeria, the two warring sides in Sudan have agreed to a 24-hour ceasefire, which will start at 6 p.m. local time. However, clashes were still reported near the presidential palace and other areas of the capital, including its northern neighborhoods, less than an hour before the start of the agreed ceasefire. Earlier, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken had said a U.S. diplomatic convoy was attacked yesterday, but nobody was hurt. This report examines the conflict that has claimed the lives of about 185 people, according to the United Nations.
A U.S. diplomatic convoy came under fire in Sudan in an apparent attack by fighters linked to the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Tuesday, calling the incident reckless and irresponsible.
We have deep concerns, of course, about the overall security environment as it affects civilians, as it affects diplomats, as it affects aid workers. The World Food Program had to suspend its operations. 3 of its people were killed. That potentially has terrible consequences for the Sudanese people, who are in desperate need of the assistance provided by the World Food Program. That only underscores the imperative of getting a ceasefire and putting Sudan back on the track that it was on, which was talks and negotiations toward the restoration of a civilian-led government.
Blinken, speaking in Japan, said the diplomatic convoy that came under fire on Monday was flying U.S. flags and all in the convoy was safe. The shooting prompted a direct warning from Blinken, who separately telephoned RSF leader General Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo and Sudan's Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan to tell them that any danger posed to American diplomats was unacceptable. The power struggle has derailed a shift to civilian rule and raised fears of a wider conflict. Fighting between Sudan's army and the paramilitary RSF that erupted on Saturday has killed at least 185 people and injured more than 1,800 UN envoy, Volker Perthes, said. Perthes, the UN envoy to Sudan, said on Monday the two sides showed no signs of willingness to negotiate. He said the rivals had agreed to a 3-hour humanitarian truce, but fighting continued despite the promises of calm.
More than 180 fatalities, people killed, more than 1,800 injured, including 3 colleagues from the World Food Programme who have been killed while trying to serve the Sudanese people in North Darfur.
The violence has cut power and water in Khartoum, and smoke has been hanging over the city amid a clamor of airstrikes, artillery fire and shooting. The clashes in Khartoum and its adjoining sister cities of Omdurman and Bari are the worst in decades and risk steering Sudan between two military factions that had shared power during a rocky political transition. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the Intergovernmental Authority for Development, IGAD, called an extraordinary summit of the heads of state and government in East Africa. The group demanded an immediate end to fighting in Sudan and called on both parties to create a safe corridor for humanitarian aid. Kenya's President William Ruto, South Sudan's President Salva Kiir, and Djibouti's President Ismail Omar Guelleh will arrive in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, at the earliest possible time, the Kenyan government said.
I'm very happy that this afternoon my elder brothers, the heads of state from the other countries, have convened so that we can take charge of not just the organization, but also take charge of the situation in our region.
Temitope Ajijalaoluwa Ola, Western Spring Television News.
Staying with Africa, Tunisia opposition Ennahda party has said its headquarters were raided by police hours after its leader Rachid Ghannouchi was arrested. There has been no word from the former Speaker of the National Assembly since he was taken from his home in Tunis yesterday. Mr. Ghannouchi is the latest critic of the increasingly authoritarian Tunisian President Kais Saied to be detained. The head of the opposition coalition, of which Ennahda is a member, called his arrest blind revenge. The Interior Ministry had said Mr. Ghannouchi was brought in for questioning and his house searched on the orders of prosecutors investigating inciting statements. In the United Kingdom, Scottish National Party SNP treasurer Colin Beattie has been arrested by police investigating the party's finances. Mr. Beattie, aged 71, has been taken into custody and is being questioned by the Scotland police detectives. A spokesman for the force said the arrest was made in connection with the continuing investigation into the funding and finances of the SNP. It comes 2 weeks after former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell, the former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon's husband, was also arrested. Meanwhile, the SNP First Minister Hamza Yousaf, when quizzed whether Mr. Beattie would be suspended from the party, said he is still innocent until proven otherwise.
Well, look, I can't comment on a live police investigation. It's clearly a very serious matter indeed.
Have you suspended him from the party? Have you suspended him from the party or the group?
I've said already that people are innocent until proven guilty. That's the premise.
Will you take him off the Public Audit Committee in the meantime?
Look, again, I'll consider that. I'll have to speak to Colin Beattie. My understanding is he's still in the police station being questioned. Clearly, when he's off that, I'll need to have a word with Colin, not about the live police investigation. We can't speak about the detail of that, but clearly there are pertinent issues around his role, Public Audit Committee, and his role, of course, as the National Treasurer.
Are you surprised that he's been arrested?
Well, yes, of course I'm surprised when one of my colleagues has been arrested, but it's a very serious matter indeed.
Now to the Russia-Ukraine war. A Russian court has rejected the appeal of U.S. journalist Ivan Gershkovich against his pretrial detention. He appeared in court in Moscow today, the first time he had been seen in public since his arrest. He was arrested in the city of Yekaterinburg while working for the Wall Street Journal newspaper and charged with spying. Mr. Gershkovich stood with folded arms and bulletproof glass enclosure, wearing jeans and a blue checked shirt. U.S. Ambassador to Moscow, Lynn Tracy, who was present for the trial, speaking after the hearing, said she had been given access to Mr. Gershkovich for the first time yesterday. She disclosed that he was in good health and remained strong despite the circumstances.
Speaking to you from the steps of the Moscow City Court, where we observed today's hearing on Evan Gershkovich's case, I can only say how troubling it was to see Evan, an innocent journalist, held in these circumstances. I was able to meet Evan yesterday at Lefordova prison. It was the first time we were granted consular access since his wrongful detention more than 2 weeks ago. I can report that he is in good health and remains strong despite his circumstances. We will continue to provide all appropriate support to Evan and his family, and we expect Russian authorities to provide continued consular access to Evan.
In the meantime, President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Ukrainian troops in Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine. His office made this known, stating that the president spoke to military commanders about the battlefield and handed out awards to soldiers. It quoted Mr. Zelensky as saying it was an honor to be with the servicemen, thanking them for their service and defending their motherland. Similarly, President Vladimir Putin has visited the Russian military headquarters in the eastern regions of Ukraine and discussed the war with the general in charge of airborne troops. The Kremlin today says the president attended an army command meeting in the southern Kherson region and had reports on the situation there. The Kremlin also released a video of the visit showing Putin dressed in a heavy blue jacket taking a helicopter to Luhansk, but did not say when any of the meetings took place. Russia's leader heard reports from commanders of the airborne forces and the Dnepr army group, as well as other senior officers, on the situation in Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. In the meantime, Romania's governing Social Democrat Party, PSD, says it would ask the coalition government to temporarily ban Ukrainian grain imports following other European countries. Poland, Hungary and Slovakia have already enforced import bans on food and grains. One of the world's largest grain exporters, Ukraine, had its Black Sea ports blocked by Russia's invasion and has been forced to find alternative shipping routes through Poland and Romania. However, due to logistical issues and shorter transport distances, millions of tons of Ukrainian grain remain in Central European states, hurting the sales of local farmers. The Romanian government party, in a statement, said it would ask the governing coalition to make a political decision to enable a temporary decree, as the compensation provided by the European Commission cannot cover the overall damage sustained. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Funmilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladoto Ransome Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Funmilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back. Moving on, in the Middle East, Syria President Bashar al-Assad has met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan in the most significant step yet towards ending Syria's decade-long regional isolation. According to Syrian state media, bin Farhan landed in Damascus today, a week after his Syrian counterpart visited Saudi Arabia. The visit is the first by a Saudi official to Syria's capital since the start of the country's civil war in 2011. The Saudi Foreign Ministry in an online statement said the visit showed the kingdom's desire to find a political solution to the Syria conflict. The two countries agreed to re-establish diplomatic ties last month. A huge landslide in northwestern Pakistan has killed at least 3 people, as well as wounded several others and buried nearly 24 vehicles. According to officials, the landslide occurred early this morning near Tokam, a key border crossing between Pakistan and Afghanistan in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Local police officer Salim Kalachi told newsmen that 3 people have died in the incident so far. He disclosed that evacuation process will take some time to complete, adding that there are around 20 to 25 vehicles buried under the landslide. Bilal Faizi, spokesman for the Rescue 1122 service in the province, said the landslide took place before dawn after rain and thunderstorm were reported in the area. In the United States, a man in the state of Missouri, Andrew Lester, has been charged with shooting a teenager, Ralph Yarl, who rang the wrong doorbell while picking up his younger brothers. Ralph's family said the teen had been trying to pick up his younger twin brothers from a friend's house when he knocked on Mr. Lester's door, mistaking it for his destination. Clay County prosecuting attorney Zachary Thompson said the 84-year-old was charged with first-degree assault and armed criminal action. Mr. Lester, who is white, allegedly shot 16-year-old Ralph Yarl, who is black, once in the head and once in the arm last Thursday night. The teenager, however, survived the assault. Police initially detained Mr. Lester for questioning and let him go, sparking protests throughout the city on Sunday.
This afternoon, my office received a criminal referral from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. After a thorough review of the case file, the appropriate laws, and information gained during the investigation phase of the case, I filed 2 felony counts. In count 1, the defendant, Andrew D. Lester, is charged with the Class A felony of assault in the first degree in that on or about April 13th, 2023, in Clay County, Missouri, he knowingly caused physical injury to P.Y. by shooting him. This is an A felony. It carries with it a range of punishment of up to life. In count 2, the defendant is charged with armed criminal action. This is an unclassified felony. It carries with it a range of punishment between 3 to 15 years. The state is alleging the defendant committed the felony of assault in the first degree as charged.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden's administration has notified Congress of the planned sale of Turkey of avionics software upgrades for its current fleet of F-16 fighter aircraft. The deal, valued at up to $259 million, moves ahead with the sale of the modernization package for Turkey's aircraft after leaders of U.S. congressional committees gave informal approval. A larger agreement of NATO member Turkey's request to buy billions of dollars worth of F-16s remains in limbo amid continuing opposition in Congress. If cleared by Congress during the formal approval process, the package would be the first major military sale to Turkey that Congress has approved for years. A State Department spokesperson in a statement said Turkey was a long-standing and valued NATO ally, adding that the Biden administration supports Turkey's efforts to bring the avionics of its F-16 fleet up to standard. In other news, China's economy grew by 4.5% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2023, signaling that the world's second-largest economy is firmly on the path to recovery after the end of Beijing's strict zero-COVID policies. The growth figure falls slightly short of Beijing's 5% growth target for 2023 set at the National People's Congress meeting in March, but is still ahead of market expectations. According to data from the National Bureau of Statistics, retail sales grew by 10.6% year-on-year, while value-added service output rose by 5.4%. Other official economic data released today reinforced signs of an upward trend in the economy. China's economy grew by just 3% last year, the second lowest rate since 1976, amid strict pandemic measures, including border closures, mass testing, and months-long lockdowns in big cities. Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of G7 have pledged to intensify sanctions against Russia over its war in Ukraine. The comments issued this morning marked the conclusion of a three-day meeting in the Japanese resort town of Karuizawa. The group, comprising of the United States, Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Canada, said there should be no impunity for war crimes and other atrocities. The ministers stated that they remain committed to intensifying sanctions against Russia, as well as coordinating and fully enforcing them. Now to some sports stories. Chelsea interim manager Frank Lampard says calling the club broken is a bit much. The Blues sacked manager Graham Potter earlier this month, with the team 11th in the Premier League, despite spending more than €550 million on players this season. Lampard, ahead of the Champions League second leg clash with Spanish giant Real Madrid, said the club was not where it should be, and that's clear, adding that the word broken is a bit much. The Champions League is the last competition the London side can win this season, but they trailed Madrid by 2 goals before tonight's quarter-final second leg.
We're not where we want to be. I think the word broken is a bit much, but we're not where we want to be. And that's clear. League position is a reality in the Premier League. We're 2-0 down in this game. So I think those things are just reality. We have to work against that and show in every way we can because we're in that moment. I'm always big in football on personal responsibility as a player and as a group, to be fair. So when I'm talking like that, I'm not blaming anyone else on what I see now and what I see in the future. So it's just something that we have to address now and address going forward, because it's a big part of the game, and we do a lot of work and delve into the data, the statistics, the output of what we're putting into games. And this is absolutely, I think I said it the other day, not a question of commitment of players, but my job is to try and focus in on points that we can get better at to compete at this level. And I think it's something that I know as a short-term thing that we can certainly improve on, and that's what we were going to do.
Still in England, Manchester City have submitted a planning application for a €300 million expansion of the Etihad Stadium. The club want to increase the current capacity of 53,400 to 60,000 by expanding the North Stand. Proposals include a sky bar overlooking the pitch and a stadium roof walk experience. A 3,000 capacity fan zone, new club shop and museum, and 400-bed hotel have also been proposed in the application to Manchester City Council. The club say the project, which would take 3 years to complete, will create a best-in-class fan experience and year-round entertainment as well as leisure destination. The planning application follows a consultation with fans and the local community. Now, before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. Heavy security presence at the State Collation Center in Yola, the Adamawa State capital, as officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) reconvene and collation of results resumes. Clashes reported near the Sudan Presidential Palace less than an hour to an agreed 24-hour ceasefire. Syria President Bashar al-Assad has met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan, the most significant step yet towards ending Syria's decade-long regional isolation. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Evelyn Ohiola. Many thanks for your time.